Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Today, we are diving deep into a book that has, I mean, it's just absolutely dominated the conversation since it came out.
Yeah.
Emily Henry's Funny Story.
A massive, massive success. Straight to the top of Goodreads, all the bestseller charts. You couldn't miss it.
Right. But when we took a look at our sources, and we've got a whole stack of them, detailed reader reviews, Reddit threads, some really interesting analytical essays, we found this fascinating split.
Yeah, you really did.
It's a book that left some readers completely charmed and others, well, absolutely furious.
And that duality is, I think, the perfect hook for this deep dive, because Emily Henry, she's an expert at creating these instantly likable characters, the witty dialogue. But this novel, maybe unintentionally, it really shone a spotlight on this huge fracture in how modern romance readers feel about conflict.
And how authors choose to resolve it.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to dissect that whole arc. We're going to look at the elements that made it an immediate hit, the banter, the unique setup, that cozy setting.
The character growth, for sure.
And then we have to tackle the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The notorious, highly contentious third act breakup plot point that just, it soured the entire experience for so many people.
It really did. But the premise itself is fantastic. I mean, the novel starts with the funny story of Daphne and Miles.
Right.
They're two strangers, and their lives get totally linked because their exes, Peter and Petra, run off together.
So it's a romance novel built on, what, shared misery.
Shared misery and this great opposites attract dynamic. Readers found it incredibly fresh.
Okay, so let's look at that foundation because it really lays all the groundwork. We've got Daphne, our protagonist. She's a children's librarian, a bit tightly wound. Her life plan just gets obliterated when her fiancé, Peter, leaves her for his childhood best friend, Petra.
So she's totally unmoored, emotionally, geographically, and she ends up very reluctantly moving in with Miles.
Who just happens to be Petra's ex.
And that move immediately activates, like, the gold standard of romance tropes.
Forced proximity.
You've got forced proximity because they're roommates. They are total opposites. And then pretty quickly, after a drunken RSVP to the ex's wedding, it escalates into this whole fake dating scenario.
And what's impressive, based on the reader reaction, is that fake dating can be so cheesy,
For sure.
But readers consistently praised Henry for making it feel realistic. Subtle, even. It wasn't just a bunch of silly misunderstandings. It felt like a fresh take.
That organic feeling is definitely amplified by the setting. Waning Bay, Michigan, it's almost its own character.
Listeners really seem to love that. They said Henry perfectly captures that cozy, small-town Lake Michigan vibe.
Yeah, the wineries, the farm stands, that whole tight-knit community feel. It gives Daphne the rootedness she's, desperately needing.
And her job, of course, means that the book is basically a love letter to libraries.
Which always guarantees some serious devotion from the target audience.
So let's talk about our leads, Daphne. She's the organized, guarded introvert, a bookworm who spent her whole life trying to be the perfect partner.
Her emotional walls are incredibly high, and they're built up from past heartbreak and some really deep family trauma.
There's this one specific detail from the sources that just sums her up perfectly. Her initial prickliness and organization were so intense that her colleagues joked she was in witness protection.
And that's such a great shortcut to understanding her journey, isn't it? Her whole arc isn't just about finding a new boyfriend. It's about building an identity that's completely separate from her failed relationship.
From her family, too. She's learning to just exist without all that armor.
Exactly. And then you have Miles, who is her complete foil.
He's the laid-back, scruffy, heavily tattooed stoner bartender.
The charming underdog. He's way more spontaneous than Daphne is comfortable with.
And he's undeniably charming. There was this near universal consensus in the reviews.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone felt he was channeling a huge Nick Miller vibe from New Girl.
Okay, I can totally see that. That endearing, messy, lovable guy who's just a good soul, even if he's a bit of a mess.
Right. And the sources praised Henry for capturing that specific kind of guy, which is exactly why the later plot point felt so jarring. But here's where it gets really interesting. The chemistry. What readers couldn't stop talking about was the banter between Daphne and Miles.
Yeah, the dialogue, one source said, effortlessly slips beneath surface level. They use all this self-deprecating humor to talk about genuinely deep emotional stuff.
And that's kind of Henry's signature move, right? That mix of light and heavy.
It is. The relationship growth is so beautiful because it's built on friendship first. Miles actively works to help her break out of her shell. He takes her on those Sunday dates to explore the town.
To reconnect with herself, really.
Yeah. And the attraction is there, but it's too dangerous to pursue because of their history. So they're forced to become best friends before they fall in love. It really reinforces that romantic idea that, you marry your best friend.
And the novel works because it's not just about the romance. The reader feedback was strong on this. The supporting relationships are just as important.
You have Ashley, Daphne's new friend.
Universally praised.
She was a true confidant, a friend who is not afraid to pick her side and helps Daphne embrace being vulnerable.
Then there's Julia, Miles' younger sister. A fantastic, complex character.
She's brutally honest. She's a great juxtaposition to how Daphne and Miles are always, hiding their feelings. She pushes them to be more real.
Though it's worth noting, not all the side characters landed well.
Oh.
A lot of readers felt that Daphne's ex-best friend, Sadie, and her own father got off the hook way too easily.
Okay. The forgiveness felt unearned.
Exactly. A major point of criticism for her character arc.
That's a crucial insight. On a lighter note, though, we can't forget some of the specific memorable details.
Like the wedding gown scene.
That famous co-living hijink, yeah. But also, we have to mention the bizarre continuity error that, pulled people right out of the story.
Yes. The infamous pants scene.
A glaring error and a steamy moment where pants just seem to magically reappear.
They'd have to be taken off again.
It's the kind of tiny flaw that gets magnified, you know? But those little things are usually easy to overlook.
That forgiveness just evaporated for so many readers when we hit the big one. The infamous third act breakup. Miles was the perfect boyfriend for almost the entire book. Thoughtful, sweet, supportive. And that's what made the reversal so shocking.
For many, unforgivable. This is where the narrative contract with the reader was just broken. The feeling was that the author shattered the character she'd spent 300 pages building.
Okay, let's drill down into the action. What made this specific misstep so bad? Miles goes completely MIA. He ghosts Daphne for nearly 48 hours.
48 hours. He ditches a major plan with her, leaves her waiting outside of her work, worried he's been hurt or worse.
And why? Why does he do this?
Because Petra, the woman who destroyed Daphne's life, called him sobbing and needed help moving.
The condemnation was just swift and overwhelming. The readers called it unacceptable. So dumb. A total betrayal.
It wasn't just about simple miscommunication either. When you look at the discussion threads, it centers on a few key points of failure.
Okay, what are they?
First, he left her sitting outside work, literally worrying he was dead in a ditch.
Terrible.
Second, he actively helped the woman who not only ruined Daphne's life, but got her kicked out of her home. Third, it showed this catastrophic lack of boundaries. Petra was clearly trying to win him back.
And the fourth point?
The resolution was completely inadequate. Daphne, who had been learning to find her voice, just sort of acts like a doormat. She forgives him, and the issue is never really properly addressed. It undermined her entire growth arc.
It's the ultimate why did you even answer the phone scenario, you know? Especially when you know Petra's goal is to get him back.
The betrayal just felt so disproportionate. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, there was a defense offered by a smaller group of readers.
Okay, let's hear the defense. What was the argument?
It rests on his core character. Miles is established as a genuinely nice guy who struggles to say no to people in pain. So it was arguably in character for him to react out of pure panic.
So not malice, but a spectacular failure of emotional intelligence.
Exactly. Some readers even thought he might have feared Petra was a physical danger when she called him crying like that.
But does that defense really hold up? I mean, the whole book is about Daphne learning to trust and confront her abandonment issues. It feels like that just justifies him prioritizing an ex's needs over his partner.
That's the sticking point, and it leads to the structural argument. The defenders claimed the action was necessary.
How so?
Because earlier, Miles admitted he might take Petra back. This scene forces him into a room where she explicitly asks for him back and he has to verbally reject her for Daphne. The argument is that we, the readers, needed to see that explicit choice.
But he achieved that choice through avoidance and terrible communication with Daphne. It just feels like, as one source said, one of the cheapest ploys in romance literature. The author needed conflict and chose the path that most violated his character.
Exactly. And that critique leads us to the bigger picture, where Funny Story fits into Emily Henry's catalog.
And opinions are all over the place. Some readers rank it higher than book lovers, some place it way below beach read.
But there is this recurring critique that her writing style, her choice of analogies and comparisons is becoming repetitive.
Oh, this was fascinating. Readers flagged specific examples like inside jokes that have gone on too long,
Like the magnet analogy for attraction.
or the constant Macaulay Culkin references. And using the same Adonis comparison for her mail leads across different books.
It creates predictability, right? The prose starts to feel like a familiar pattern instead of a new discovery.
And that predictability extends to the genre structure. Critics noted she relies heavily on the small-town setting, the guaranteed happily ever after.
And using miscommunication as the major plot driver, which, for sophisticated romance readers, can feel like a weakness, especially in the third act.
There was also a broader conversation about the protagonist archetype itself. The feedback was pretty clear. Henry tends to stick to a very specific type. The 20-something white woman with major issues who meets this perfect guy shtick.
Right. It's a critique about scope and representation. The feedback points to a lack of non-white or non-cishet main characters. It feels like a comfort zone that might be too narrow for a writer of her prominence.
So what does this all mean? Funny story is, well, it's a dual-sided success. It's praised for the witty humor, the emotional depth, Daphne's personal growth journey.
Confronting her dad, her own fears of abandonment, all of that is brilliant.
But it dramatically stumbled for so many right at the finish line because of the male protagonist's lack of communication and perceived loyalist issues.
It's a masterclass in friendship to love, but the ending really forces you to question what kind of conflict is acceptable from a supposedly perfect romantic lead.
You know, the source material mentions that Emily Henry's characters are sometimes seen as conflict-averse, leading them to make weak and annoying decisions in the name of being a soft dude.
Okay, yeah.
So consider this. If the main theme is Daphne learning to stand up for herself and break these toxic patterns, how effective is Miles's apology? He tries to fix his mistake with this dumb, useless, grand gesture going to see her dad, instead of just communicating honestly with Daphne first.
That grand gesture, no matter how well-intentioned, it completely bypasses the central issue, which was his failure to prioritize her.
Exactly. Does that panicked avoidance, even if his heart was in the right place, ultimately reinforce Daphne's deepest fears of abandonment? This raises an important question for you, the reader. Do you prefer a character who fights openly and communicates honestly, even if it causes friction? Or one who avoids conflict at all costs, only to make a spectacular error when they're finally forced to act? It really challenges what we value in a modern romantic hero.